said you would bring it home.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you promised, Daddy. We want a baby.
Oh, well, now, wait a minute.
Darling, a promise is a promise. Now, you two get to bed, and Daddy and I will discuss it.
Will you discuss it tonight?
If Daddy's not too tired.
Well, I don't think Daddy's too tired.
Hooray for Daddy! Hooray for
When you're at the cutting edge of TV news, remember Murphy's Law. Make a good impression.
Nice teeth.
Be sensitive.
Hey, everybody. Miles just got his first death threat.
And keep in with the boss.
I haven't had a date in over a month, Miles, and you're starting to look real good.
Candice Bergen is Murphy Brown, award-winning American comedy coming to BBC2 Monday at 6.
Yesterday they gave us cars. Today we have traffic jams. Yesterday they gave us light bulbs. Today we have laser beams. Yesterday they gave us the pill. Today we have genetic engineering. Yesterday they were the men in white coats. Today they are the men in suits.
We are the future.
As technology takes great steps forward, are we being left behind? BBC2 explores the white heat of technology, starting Monday at 8.
Coming up, a dramatised profile of the Glaswegian writer Ronald Frame, in which he returns to the city that gave him his inspiration to find that things have changed. Ghost City in 15 minutes. You're watching BBC2. Now, the man who wrote the Sloane Ranger's Handbook is your guide to what the magazines say.
This week, What the Society magazines say is presented by Peter York.
Good evening. Do you believe in a parallel universe where different wonderful things happen to quite different wonderful people? Did you watch The Twilight Zone? Do you remember that Harrods ad that said, "Enter a different world"?
Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley.
First pose pictures of the newlyweds.
Well, that's different. The Society magazines is something of a parallel universe, one where everyone's upper class and rich, international and eccentric, where they have houses like other people have pairs of shoes, and much, much longer names. But none of it guarantees taste.
Lamb dressed as mutton, the girls who dress like their mothers.
Zara Plunkett Ernle Earl Drax.
What a name.
28, has the potential to be the dish of the day rather than the merely citrus sorbet.
Quad-barreled Zara meets all the knobs in this world and many other seriously rich people you've never heard of. Society magazines don't usually tell you about relationships and sex stuff, or cooking for families, mending the drains, getting value on the high street, or work. They tell you how to spend it, if you've got it, how to imagine spending it, if you're a wannabe. Tatler's ad for itself, in Vogue this month, sums it all up.
It's quite remarkable who you meet in Tatler these days.
Famous faces.
Rich living.
Insider gossip.
The writers you want to read on the people you need to know about.
Remember, you need to know about them if you want to prosper in this universe. And you can never start too young. This month, the strikingly named Harper's Queen rolls up the shirt sleeves.
Womb service.
Gynecologists we love.
A woman's partnership with a gynecologist must be frank, trusting, and equal. It is also frequently affectionate, humorous, and flirty.
It gives advice on who'll give your baby the best start. For about £2,000, you can hire a very expensive delivery boy.
Roger Marwood is great fun, pragmatic, and far from conservative. Marwood
46.
is the Chelsea woman's man.
Good area.
Patience.
Professionals, show business and sports personalities or their partners, many Americans and barristers.
I suppose someone's got to do it for them. Then there's Marcus Setchell. Better check out the clinical records there.
Marcus Setchell.
The star who took over from Sir George Pinker as Royal Gynecologist and Obstetrician in 1990.
A noble deliverer. But what about his...
clients?
Royalty, tennis stars, and show business or their partners. Aristocracy.
Sounds like a very good doctor. When they're just a bit older, Tatler can help you with the school run. What should girls wear for it?
Back to school.
No wild individualism, no tiny shell suits or platforms here.
Lady Clark approves of her daughter's Lady Eden coats,
Eminently practical.
although she would prefer them to be more tailored.
But far more importantly, what should you wear?
This winter's coat is made of wool, is double-breasted, and usually sports a prim velvet collar.
Sarah Macmillan,
Was completely bowled over by the grey and white Gucci coat.
£920.
And as the children grow up, it'd have been nice to do something a bit more substantial than just taking the odd snap to show you care.
The age of innocence. All you need to know about immortalizing the most beautiful child in the world. Your own.
So instead of little Wayne at the joystick of the Super Nintendo, you have...
The Wyndham children, the Honourable Jessica, the Honourable George, and the Honourable Constance in the White Library at Petworth.
There you see one of the fascinating facts about this world. Most people either have a title, come from a great family, were brought up somewhere else, or by someone else. Public school is the bedrock where you learn how to be top.
Heads of School, 1993-1994.
It has its rewards. If you go to Sherborne, where, appropriately enough, given its rustic location, you can grow a beard, smoke a pipe, and tether a goat on the school grounds. Ancient privileges even say you can have a wife.
A wife and a pipe. But what are fags for? What happens if you're from good stock but fall on hard times and can't afford the boarding school fees?
To board or not to board?
My own children will never be cast among strangers because there isn't the money. As a single mother, or whatever I am called these days, I quite often long for them to be sent away for 9 out of 12 months. I never meant to be the generation that broke the mould of misery and confidently expected my children would go to boarding school and suffer as generations were compelled to do before them.
When a girl finishes school, she comes out. That doesn't mean anything Channel 4-ish, you understand, because country life doesn't deal in that side of country life. Then she may want to get around a bit.
Miss Georgia Liddell, a debutante this season, has recently completed A-levels and now plans to travel and work in New Zealand. The family farms in Hampshire, near Stockbridge on the Test.
Then you go into party world. You have to look what Michael Barrymore calls bloody gorgeous. Now, this is hard work.
Marine rescue.
Ancient Romans and French kings swore by it. Now, modern cosmetic companies are harnessing the benefits of seaweed to create a new wave of products.
Juliet Cohen on algae liberation.
Photograph by Piero Gamelli.
This is high science.
Chlorels
A microscopic unicellular species.
were the first living cells on the planet.
You can see why a girl needs A-levels.
Lydia
Who specialises in seaweed.
has developed a huge range of products, from oils to shampoos, body masks to massage creams, using only the finest seaweeds dredged off the coast of Brittany.
But it isn't all face value. There's important research to be done. Who's who, where they go, and how to kiss. Meredith Etherington Smith in Harper's and Queen can help you there.
Pecking order.
The new rules for social kissing.
Mwah! Mwah! Darling, gosh, how lovely to see you.
Mwah, what fun. Mwah, love your dress.
No, I really can't get past your hat.
You need to know that...
Lisa St. Aubin de Terrain.
And...
India Jane Burley.
Will do anything to avoid kissing.
Whereas...
Count Paolo Filo della Torre.
And...
Lady Edith Foxwell.
Wet kisses.
And yet again...
Prince Peter Sapia.
And...
Japanese royals.
Do you know who that is? Nor do I. But we should, and the magazines will help us.
Hand kissers.
This is a real world, and these are very ordinary upper-class people, right down to the countess next door. To you ordinary folk out there, trying to make ends meet, take comfort. There are masses of them, fabulously rich and an example to us all. You won't know most of them. That's, of course, unless you read Hello, which specialises in big stars.
The Queen.
Good name. The people in this parallel world really know how to live. They work tirelessly for charity, constantly showing their faces just to raise a few quid and getting a grand knees up into the bargain.
Balkan's relief ball on HMS Belfast.
Northumbria Ball at Chillingham Castle in aid of action research.
Time-form charity dinner at York.
Mrs. Leonard Sena, Mrs. Jonathan Agnew, and the Honourable Mrs. Christopher Gilmore.
Please note in these photographs, a married woman is described as Mrs. George Thing Smith, not Miranda Thing Smith. Correct and politically correct are entirely different. It's one of those useful little matters you just have to know. Now, don't go away thinking these parties could be a bit stodgy. There's always something really fashionable.
The great exhibitionists.
The first stirrings of the new decadence were given rein at the Royal Academy Venetian Ball.
Not do anything to be noticed.
Is decadence really back? Aesthetically, yes. We will dress up and spend a fortune to go to the ball, but the spirit is not quite willing. We are only testing the waters.
Who was there?
Prince Pierre d'Arenberg.
Isabel Goldsmith.
Rather exotic. You've just got to remember we're in Euro society now. And you mustn't forget the object of the exercise, which is a fundamentally serious one, to marry somebody rich with a name longer than yours.
Mortimer Gower Isaac wedding in the college gardens of Westminster Abbey.
Heiress Jarvis wedding at Doddington Hall, Lincoln.
Actually, this month is a terribly disappointing one for weddings. Not a royal person in sight. A smart wedding's only worth mentioning if there's a royal around, however minor or foreign. It's time to remember your roots, where the heart is, in the country, in a modest manor house.
A Grade 1 listed manor house set in Parkland.
Or if a bit more push.
A fine Georgian rectory, listed Grade 2. Hall, 2 reception rooms, 6 bedrooms.
To raise a few horses, dogs, children and pigs. Did you know that every working upper-class person loves pigs?
Primrose of Chatsworth.
Don't you think she's rather beautiful in her own way?
Asks the Duchess.
Devonshire.
As she runs an appreciative hand down Primrose's withers.
Hamlet of Shugborough. I've been interested in pigs since I was a child. I'm not sure why. I suppose I find them relaxing.
That was Lord Lichfield, the calendar photographer, celebrated for his resemblance to Lionel Blair. But remember, a real country person is never too sentimental about animals.
On the wall above the sty is a pork chart, which shows the butcher's cuts.
There may sometimes be a twinge, but there are some things you have to do, especially with moles.
Mole is such a gentle, kindly little fellow in his smart velvet waistcoat that I always have a pricking conscience when I dispatch one. Yet a single animal can inflict untold damage on a lawn or flower bed. Last evening, while reading a book in my sitting room, I was distracted by a small black object which disappeared behind the television. It was a mole. My keen gardening instincts immediately overcame my better nature, and seizing a First World War bayonet from my fireplace, I administered a sharp and fatal blow. I then felt frightfully pleased with myself, but still a little sad.
The knives are out for moles. A.A. Gill and the Tatler takes up the theme.
Great White Hope.
White pepper will rid you of moles. Put a brick on a mole hole, cover it with white pepper, then go and get drunk. The mole, remember, who is blind, comes sniffle, snuffle, snuffle along his corridor, gets a snuffle of pepper, and in a sneezing fit, bashes his brains out on the brick. If you only had black pepper, you would have to sit up all night waiting to club him to kingdom come with the grinder.
The holiday page is warm to this sporting theme, too. You can do something quite useful in Scotland.
Stalking, hunting, and walking.
As many as 45,000 newly born red deer calves, a full 80% of the total, will die of cold and starvation. March and April are the worst months. It is terrible to see the wasted corpses of a hind and her calves lying side by side, huddled in some hollow in a futile struggle against the elements.
They're better off shot, then.
Only good estate management can prevent such unnecessary suffering. It is vital that the deer population be kept down to a level that this unforgiving land can support.
Ah, yes, exactly. They're better off shot. It's quite wrong to think these magazines are all pigs and parties. As someone once said of Vogue, first the body is anointed, but then the mind is lightly dusted with sequins. There's a lot more to them. Politics, for instance, and the stirrings of a completely new view of the political options in country life.
Playing political drawing rooms.
By Leander Delisle.
I am not a member of the Conservative Party, and although I have always voted for it in the past, I slightly resent the assumption that I always shall. Mr. Major is the sort of man I would sit at the worthy but weary end of the dinner table, whereas Mr. Blair looks and sounds unnervingly like one of us when we are in London mode.
So what's happening in the other world? Is something getting through?
Coming up for Blair.
Why? Top people are turning left.
Anyone we know?
Rodine-educated Victoria Scott received hate mail after demanding her father's resignation.
Ex-Marlborough boy Hugh Raven is a councillor turned eco-activist turned guest from hell.
I'd have terrible rows over the dinner table.
Look at the celebrities who support the Tories. Cilla Black, for instance.
Says Julia disgustedly.
It's good to know what PLUs, people like us, are thinking. I even sense a change of heart in interiors. Shiniest, most Marie Antoinette-ish of decoration magazines. Shelter magazines to the trade. True, they've got pages of the ultimate wannabe house.
Madonna in Miami.
If anyone walks in here expecting formality, they'll be disappointed.
Says Christopher Ciccone of the Mediterranean-style villa he decorated for his elder sister, Madonna.
This is a beach house.
I find these things very relative, don't you? But sometimes society mags have a sharp social edge, showing us how some of the most vulnerable members of our society live in tiny rural cottages with no electricity, the kind Shropshire District Council considers unfit for human habitation.
Bird's Cottage in Shropshire is the perfect antidote to city living.
Kate Corbett-Winder explores the highs and lows of this unmodernised two-up, two-down.
The country isn't all roses round the door for the rural poor.
Rory was made joint master of the local United Hunt and so became a genuine winter resident, commuting between his desk at the Evening Standard in London and the Hunt kennels.
People do make sacrifices.
His mastership lasted an exhausting and expensive 4 years, rising at 4:30 on hunting days and almost as early on other days to earn enough as a journalist to pay the hunting bills.
But thankfully for most everyday upper-class folk, the bills aren't really the problem. For around £2.50, you can look inside the parallel universe. But unless you've got serious money or serious connections, then you won't get through the time lock. It's spooky. Good night.
On Wednesday night, I went to a marvellous party with Nunu and Nada and Nell. You know, it was in the fresh air, and we went as we were. And we stayed as we were, which was hell. Poor Grace started singing at midnight, and she didn't stop singing till 4. You know, we knew the excitement was bound to begin when Laura got blind on Dubonnet and gin and scratched her veneer with a Cartier pin. I couldn't have liked it more, honestly. I mean, it was a marvellous party.
Video Diaries is back. Meet the 19-year-old fisherman in a sea of debt.
3 years ago, I started fishing on a YTS scheme, and I hate it.
Tony, determined to be number 1. There's Paul.
Why don't they just give up and go away? Nazism does not fit in this country.
And the Cuban nipple crisis is the diary of a glamour photographer.
I know you girls are not used to keeping them in, are you?
But the series starts with Sharon, a schizophrenic.
Another Christmas. I'm not happy at all.
Video Diaries brings real lives into focus.
His name is Joe Buck.
You're a nice person, Joe. I should never have asked you up here.
He's a cowboy. Just came in from Texas.
Cowboy, huh?
Very new to the city. He don't quite know the ropes yet, but he's very promising material, sir. You know what I mean?
Come on, baby, do it for Mama.
Everybody's talking at me.
I hate to ask you, but you're such a doll.
You gotta watch out for that.
You were going to ask me for money. There's an E in money.
Enrico Rizzo, from the Bronx.
I said a person's got to make a living.
I'd be happy to oblige.
Not bad. Not bad. For a cowboy.
John Schlesinger's classic movie, Harry Nilsson's classic music, Midnight Cowboy, tomorrow at 10:15 on BBC2.
Your last chance to catch up on the progress of Candy the kitten and all the patients at the Animal Hospital Live on BBC One now. It's common knowledge that the French have a reputation for being passionate, but just how passionate are they about their gardens? Jeff Hamilton crosses the channel in half an hour. First on BBC2, in a dramatised self-portrait, writer Ronald Frame embarks on a promotional tour of Glasgow, contemplating the past influences on his life and writing.
Coming up in just a moment, Ronald Frame, who is back in Glasgow to publicise his latest book, a collection of short stories called Walking My Mistress in Deauville. It says here, several of the stories are set in the leafy suburbs of Glasgow in the 60s. So all you girls out there in Bearsden and the Mearns better keep listening. You might just recognise yourself.
I belong to Glasgow. Or do I?
Could you turn it up?
How much do I actually remember? Or am I turning the past into a fable to suit myself?